Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Sea podcast. Welcome back to another weekend recap. It's been a minute, and I apologize for that. I was sick, as you all know that follow me on socials in general. I was quite sick to the point in which a rare occasion I had to completely just disappear for like a day and a half. But I've been fine now. I've been fine for a couple of days. I have kept you all updated on socials as usual, covered a lot of games with you all, news and everything like that. We've been back to normal now for a couple of days, and we are right back with a full weekend recap and a weekend recap that feels a bit different given the lack of Olympiacos FC action, but as we're heading into the final stretch of absolutely everything, our plate certainly feels quite full. Now, there is a planning as usual for this, so before we get into the chaos that is what we saw today, I decided to kind of leave the best for last. I kind of want to skim through all the Erasitechni stuff that happened because there is a lot to talk about. And then in due time, we'll get right into the basketball. Now, starting off, not really Olympiacos, but something definitely worth talking about. Of course, we are in the middle of a national team break in football, which means we saw two things. We saw the under 21s continue their their mission towards the Euros, and we saw the men's national team, and I couldn't say that with more disdain in my system, play a friendly against Paraguay of all teams, and of course we have a friendly coming up. Now, let's go from positives to negatives. The under 21s. An incredible performance once again against Malta in a group which our boys find themselves undefeated, yet only being seriously really threatened by Germany, who they face next. Of course, our boys have gone 6 out of 6, and Germany have gone 5-1. Of course, our own boy, Babis Kostoulas, was part of the squad and, of course, had an assist to his name. And as much as he deserves that men's national team call up again with how bad stuff is getting at Brighton, I'm glad he can help the under 21s just deservingly get the qualification to the Euros and get himself some momentum in game time as well. And I'll say this again to put up an Olympiacos spin to everything. I hope and actively pray we get Babis on loan at least back in the summer from Brighton, because I think we all know that it's safe to say how much of help Babis Kostoulas will be. We've seen it firsthand. Now, the men's national team, I feel in the bottom of my heart, I really feel bad for throwing so much shade towards the national team because I really don't want to. I love the blue and white. As we all do. There's nothing that unites football fans more than that blue and white. But is stuff bad? Is stuff bad? Jova should have gone. Of course, that's open for discussion. and I am more than willing to discuss this in the comments, but Jova should have gone. Like for me, the moment we didn't qualify for the World Cup, he should have left immediately. And that's not even because Jova is a bad coach. I'm not gonna throw out my bias because I've said this from the beginning, from his appointment. I don't like Jovanovic as a coach. But the fact, someone brought this up as an example, the fact that not only players like Bakasetas, like Kourbelis, are still playing regular football, even in the friendlies, for some reason. But we'll get to that. It's not even that. It's the fact that 11 that beat Scotland back when it did has not played together again. That historic 11 that got that massive result away has not played together again. Neither has the England 11. And you go into a friendly with Paraguay, a friendly which you supposedly booked to give people chances. And you start a friendly with Odiseas Vlachodimov, Bakasetas, Kourbelis, and even Rota, and leave out the starting 11. You sub off at half time. You take off Carechas for Masouras. I love Masouras. I've been a harsh critic of him, but I love Masouras. Why are you taking off Carechas in a friendly at half time? The kid's probably our most talented player of a very talented bunch that you're not giving chances to. And then you sit and wonder why they're not ready when the spotlights are on. Because they don't play when they're off. Triadis. Tsiftis under the sticks. I'm not even going to say Jolakis. Tsiftis under the sticks. Even... I'm lost. I'm crashing out again. Jova should go. The manager that should come in is not only a manager that will help turn this God-forsaken ship around, because it's heading right for the rocks again. We're not Faroe Islands bad, but we're bad. And the new coach needs to help make that much needed transition to the new generation. People need to follow the lead of Petros Mandalos and go. Bakasetas needs to go. Kourbelis needs to go. People need to make space. There's players that can play. Musa, Zafiri. There is so many. There is such a talented team coming up. Even you're seeing it with the under 21s. There are so many players, and I'm even losing some players. There are some PAO players that I'd love to see in the national team. Even some Pana youngsters that midfielder. Someone remind me his name because I'm forgetting. He can easily get a call up. I know he's injured, but I'm speaking for the future. He can easily get a call up. Even Michailidis from PAOK, I don't know why his call up got resigned. I don't know why Hadjidiakos is playing. And I don't know why Retsos is getting like 10-minute cameos, for example. It's a mess. It's a selection mess. It needs to be fixed. Because at this rate, I'm even scared for the Nations League. And if Jovan stays for the Nations League, first of all, I hope he proves me wrong. But if he doesn't, and the Nations League goes crashing, then we're at exactly the same spiral in which we were now. And we're risking another major tournament. I hope stuff gets better. I really do. Now, moving on to more positive things, moving on to more Olympiacos things. Perhaps the best of the rest in the Erasitechni, I did not. Before we move on, I'm gonna just set things clear. I don't really care about what Bakasetas and Gurbelis do at club level. I just want them gone from the national team. Then they can do whatever they please. Same for Madalos. Like, his time was up. He realized it a bit too late, but he retired from the national team. And now some new blood can come in. They need to follow suit. But as I was saying, perhaps the best of the rest, given the Erasitechni, the department of the club that makes us the most, not necessarily makes us the most proud, but has the most momentum, has the most confidence. And of course, that's water polo. The men and the women both are going insane, but due to games. And the women playing tomorrow. I want to, at the time of recording, of course, I want to focus on the men. And after they got a massive win against Brescia, they came back, just discarded Vouliagmeni, continuing their undefeated run in the Water Polo League. And again, at the time of recording this, tomorrow, they have a very tough task ahead of them in Barcelona against Barceloneta. And honestly, as much of a mission impossible as this sounds, I believe in these boys. They've proven us right many times in having confidence in them. And I truly, really believe in them. I believe in the captain. I believe in the coach. I believe in the top to the bottom player in the rotation. And they can push on and get another historic result. And knock on wood, of course, as we're heading into the final stretch, why not gun for the European title? Why not gun for it? I'm sure that they can pull this off, but I'm even more certain that they'll do their best and give it their absolute all, like everyone should when playing and representing Olympiacos. Speaking of an attitude improvement needed, speaking of an absolute plane crash of performances, and speaking of my first reason to go completely nuts on a post after months, probably, I don't think anyone was really expecting such a disappointing end to the season. I don't think anyone was really expecting both the men and the women to fall this fast? Of course, there is different reasons for both. Of course, for the men, the major blame goes to Gardini and the summer planning and him. Honestly, him needing to leave way earlier so we could have had a normal pre-season. It goes down to age. Ultimately, I get that when we won the European title, the ages of the players were similar, and perhaps volleyball is the only sport that age really doesn't matter as much, along with, of course, basketball. But after a point, it's gonna catch up when you really have no youth. Well, not no, very little youth to inject in the team. Injuries are gonna catch up, but ultimately and inexcusably, like, come on, we can't get nothing done with this band, and that's clear. Them winning the two cups makes this season not as much of a disaster, but the fact that we have completely capitulated in every derby in the league and are about to be easily swept aside in the playoffs is worrying at most, worrying at least, actually, and shameful at most, and a massive reset is needed in the summer. And the most important thing is to figure out who wants to be here, who you want to keep, who you need to keep, if anyone. I have like a name or two in mind, maybe, like not much else. And for you to bring the right people in. I'm sure that some agreements have been made already. This is volleyball after all. But it needs to be done correctly this time so we can have a correct precision and actually go on and be competitive, because it's a year where no one is at their best. You have 4 okay-ish teams, and you're the worst of the 4. And that should never be a reality here. And hopefully, it's a lesson to be learned this season in general. And hopefully we see the correct changes. And of course, it doesn't only go for the men, it goes for the women as well. Because what in the exact, the word that would follow, do you mean you got swept aside by Zaon Kifisias? Come on. Zaon Kifisias, I know the agreements that have been made. I know that some people, shamefully, mind you, didn't really care after a point. I know the injuries, but Zaon Kifisias, we're gonna have to fight in the 5th to 8th playoffs to fight for Europe. And the fact that Olympiacos may not even be in Europe next season after everything that the Champions League brought in this season is unbelievable. It's insane that we may not even be in Europe next season. Getting fifth will be the bare minimum for these bands. Getting fifth will be the bare minimum for them. And I know, you know, a lot of people know that everyone has dispersed. Some people have gone to direct opposition. Some people have gone elsewhere. And as I said, for the men, a quick reset is needed. We're not going to keep anyone that doesn't want to be here. Olympiacos is for the people that deserve and want to represent it and will give everything for the red and white. That's not for everyone. People go to their deserved teams and as such. And exactly as I said, for the men, a quick and a well-organized reset's needed for Olympiacos to be right back where they belong. And let's not have this season ever happen again, please. Now, flipping from another great negative to another great positive, as I feel like a severe broken record in saying this, but what are we seeing from this team? Of course, our women's football team, that historic team, wins 11-0 again, this time against Elpida Trikallon. Yeah, Elpida Tripolis, I'm sorry, not Trikallon. Elpida Tripolis, no opposition, nowhere near a sweat, even in the horizon being broken. And that's not even the most insane thing. As these girls keep going undefeated, they've yet to concede. They've yet to concede as the goal difference now stands at 127-0. 127-0 for those of you that didn't hear me correctly. And as I said, there is a lot of talent in this team, but the strike force, the attacking force, topped off by the one and only Naya Benjamin, who is now close, if not at 40 goals after hitting another hat-trick, mind you, in the second half, because he didn't even start this one. They're now looking at the last game of the season ahead of them. And then I honestly can't wait to see them tear up the second division next year and get to where they already deserve to be, which is the Alpha Ethniki, and make more history there. Olympiacos is here to stay again, and I feel like we can't even begin to fathom how quick this team is going to take over when the time comes, of course. Also, speaking of Olympiacos spirit and Olympiacos pride, sadly, very sadly, in the European Cup, our boys did fall 26-31, despite the amazing performance of Sava, who I think had about half of the team's goals. I think he had 13, if I remember correctly. But yeah, sadly, bad first half will cost the team the first leg at home. And now we have to go out and win by 5 minimum. We all, at least I was on a high, thinking this team as unstoppable, but they still gave it their all. They perhaps could have avoided such a big difference, but we know we are facing the competition favorite, of course. And I'm sure that nothing is really over yet. I'm sure they'll give it their all. I'm sure that it will be closer than expected. And with just a bit more concentration, you never know. I've been saying this for absolutely everything. You can't write off Olympiacos. You can never write off Olympiacos, especially in the knockouts, especially when a title is at play, especially when history is at play. And I truly believe these boys still have a chance. I don't think it's over. But the most important thing is wrapping up the league. And I think we'll all be proud of what they did this season. Now, enough with the general talk. Let's get to it. Olympiacos go out at Oaxaca in perhaps, technically speaking, the most irrelevant derby of the season, the most irrelevant derby perhaps of the past few years, and as it should have been expected, maybe it all blows up. It all blows up. It doesn't take long to blow up, as we saw a first quarter of calm basketball, perhaps. Let me actually pull the necessary stuff up. Calm scoring basketball. I'm not going to talk about the refereeing. I'm not, because what did people expect? I am going to technically get into it in a bit. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about the general stuff. We had a fast-paced scoring first quarter. And then with Dorsey, of course, in Fed first quarter, getting an insane amount of 18 points, we go out in the second. And the second quarter is looking a bit more intense. We're keeping steady, playing good defense. Pana are getting the non-existent fouls that they are getting. And suddenly, Dorsey and Nunn, out of nowhere, get face to face. And a fight breaks out because the shocker Nunn got involved in another fight on the court. And then, of course, out of seemingly nowhere, Matthias Lesor gets involved and just tears Dorsey's jersey apart. It really only took Dorsey a half to technically get MVP of this one. And Spano weren't having it. So all that happens. Nunn and Tyler both get DQ'd and they're off. Rightfully or not, that's for all of you to decide. The team, I'm pretty sure, in the announcement that the team made, they said that only Nunn should have been ejected. I really don't know. I don't even know. Well, I do know why the fight started, because self-evident reasons. I don't want to speak too much, but I really don't want to get into the technicalities of the fight. It's just funny to me. It really is just funny to me that Lesor was questioning, like, why did I get an unsportsmanlike call when he once again wanted to get involved for seemingly no reason at all. Like, okay, I genuinely, if this just pops up for any Panathinaikos fans, I genuinely want you to answer me this. When the whole Baldwin thing happened, you all were excusing it. Yeah, he celebrated on the logo, he defended the logo and stuff, which is BS, and you and I both know that. But yeah, that happened. Now, why? Why did Lesor get involved? Because he was nowhere near. He didn't approach with the intention of stopping the fight, as did Giannoulis Laradjagis and Chedi Osman, which props to both of them. Like, let's be fair here, props to both of them that wanted to stop the fight. Lesor wanted to make it worse, clearly. So I'm going to ask a question which I've asked many times. How, in what universe is this excused? And then you had the whole announcement thingy, and then you had Panathinaikos complaining about offensive chants. I couldn't give more of a blank stare. I don't know if I need to face palm or anything. I posted the story, and I reposted the thing on Twitter in regards to Pana's announcement. For those of you that haven't seen it, go do so. And then just chaos, unnecessary chaos. Mind you, this game didn't matter. Of course, you want to beat Pana. It's the derby. I don't want to even give them my fever. But the game itself was an irrelevant game. And you're all telling me that you want this to happen over a playoff series, or even worse, in the Final Four. I feel like the country would implode. We were 2 games away from a Derby of Eternals EuroLeague final last season. And stuff was already happening. I know I'm not in the minority in saying this. Why? Like, the content will be insane. The content will be mental. It will be the most beneficial thing for channels like this one. But why? I can't even begin to actively understand what a playoff series of this would lead to, like, or even worse, as I said, a Final Four game. But yeah, and of course, the one that shall not be named, and his Instagram stories were back at it, especially throwing out empty threats and going on rants and stuff like that. I asked the question why people don't just enjoy basketball. And yeah, I guess that's why. Because when you have a toxic system like this one run by such a toxic person in such a toxic environment, you can't avoid this stuff. When you have an organization just crying every single game, a stadium crying every single play, you can't avoid stuff like that. But honestly, so be it. We have to live with it, and we will get into what matters the most. And I'll get into this one immediately. I started talking about it. This man had 18. This man had 18 in a quarter. He was on the court for 12 minutes total. And he had 18 and 1. He had, I can't stress this enough. This man had 18 points in 12 minutes. That's unimaginable efficiency, which is something not said to be explained. He would have genuinely dropped like 40 if none wasn't Kendrick Nunn. But yeah, that's again toxicity overload, as we said. Tyler is on a year that you can't really explain. This, I've said it before, I'll say it again. He's a man on a mission, right? More to prove himself right than others wrong. We've seen a transformation in which I can't really begin to point out an improvement like that in the recent years. The only player that comes close is really Alec, the season that Sasa left, and this man just carried the team to the Final Four. The stats he puts up, the efficiency he puts, it's all insane. Of course, he'll have his bad nights. But Tyler Dorsey, in his bad nights this season, when he'll drop you like 13, 2, and 6, and in his bad nights last season, that's a different player. That's not the same man. It's like it's upgrading your player in 2K. I don't know anymore how to even put this into words. It's his year. And honestly, he's one of the first that deserve to not only lift that EuroLeague trophy, but lift it right where he dropped 18 in quarter today. I think that's the best thing to come out and say. And speaking of a man that is never going to disappoint, speaking of a man that is always there when needed, and speaking of a man that today was excellent, this man. If anything, today's game fit a category in which I've mentioned before. I've thrown the Villarban games, since they're coming up, in this category. I've thrown some other GBL games in this category. It's a momentum game. Like, put aside the derby factor. A game like this needs to be used and observed in a way for players that don't really have a chance to gain momentum, or players that have had a dip in form to either find their form again or grab the chance by the horns and prove something. And God knows, did Gianoulis Laredakis prove something with 12, 2, 6, and 2 steals to his name. I don't think there is a better way to describe his performance than game changer. He came in and just flipped. He flipped it. He flipped the game completely. Dorsey better than Doncic. Luka wants to be like Dorsey. Luka wants to be like Tyler. They were talking about a star leaving Dallas, and it wasn't Luka Doncic. But yeah, as I was saying, Larry has an effect that I can't even put in the energizer category, in my opinion at least. Larry has an effect that he's truly a soldier. Gianoulis Laredakis is the perfect mold of a soldier. This man is loyal. This man doesn't complain, even if he gets like 5 straight DMPs. he doesn't earn much comparatively. I think his contract's like below 600, below 800, somewhere in that range. He's heard a lot from fans for no apparent reason at all. And the moment he can get himself 20 minutes, he'll win you the game. Because, in my humble opinion, he's my MVP, as I said, for tonight. And he can easily be a game winner. For me, Larry needs to stay. Of course, you will go out and respect it. You will respect the fact that if he asks to go to have a bigger role, but if he doesn't, in my opinion, you keep him. You do your best to keep him because in his role, for his quality, I don't think you find much better, at least easily, right? So I think you keep him, if possible. I love this. I love this. And I am gonna start using Stephen Larry from now on. Even though the Cobra will be unmatched forever, in my opinion. I don't think we've had such an iconic celebration ever since Spanul. Like pure out and out celebration. I'm gonna drop that and maybe I'll get crucified, but so be it. The Cobra is amazing. You can't fail to mention these three, even though I mention them every single episode that we do. But you can't fail to mention these three. When Donta came in the summer, I had high expectations because we brought in an athletic player. We brought in seemingly the perfect fit to back up Nico Milutinov. And stuff really didn't go well fast. Some people had compared him to Joel Bolomboy, but they said that he didn't have his own Tyreek Black to cover him in his mistakes. So Donta got a lot of stick up to the point where his form just dipped fast. And it was Milu on his own for a while. But then our savior in absolute magic, Tyreek Jones, came in. And God was a hype. And God was everyone a hype. Rightfully so. Because this man came in, as I'm still gonna die on the hill that we have the first and the third best bigs in the EuroLeague. This man came in, slotted right behind Nico Milutinov perfectly, and gave the opportunity to Donta Hall to free up his game, gain his confidence, gain his momentum, and just unlock his game. He unlocked his talent. And now you're seeing games like this from Donta Hall, where he had 13 and 6 and 17. Those just, it's whole airlines all over again. Like going from that block to these dunks, he can give you very valuable minutes. And I'm gonna die on the hill that Donta Hall is a luxury third choice option, and we have the best front line in the EuroLeague. And I couldn't be happier about that. Of course, there is no real point in talking about just standings and stuff, because we knew that as I said, this one didn't really affect anything. But there is one more performance I want to talk about, and then to end off, I want to circle back to Tyler Dorsey for a bit because I just clicked something that Ergin Ataman said that I desperately want to comment on because it did annoy me a little bit. But I want to get to this, man. Why? Why is he being hated so much? Like, why is he the scapegoat? Of course, Thomas Walkup tonight put up 11, 3, and 8. He did have an impressive Monte Morris behind him tonight that covered him. But he put up his constant numbers. I've said this, Walkup can be having the worst night ever and still drop 6 assists plus. And I get the annoyance that, yeah, you miss layups, okay, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't miss layups. The layups that Thomas missed tonight were unmissable, and I get that. But why are we suddenly going from one end of Mr. Consistency to the end of just making him out to be the worst guard ever? Thomas has some positives and Thomas has some negatives. There's a reason he's a consistent starter for Olympiacos under Barzokas. And there is a reason he's been so effective. For me, he was good today. I really didn't hate his performance today. I don't know if I'm being biased or something, but for me, he was good today. And there are things that he can improve, but please, and I beg of you, let's not turn into them. Let's not just go from one extreme to the other. Make sure to throw out your criticism correctly, effectively, and with the aim of the betterment of someone. Don't just tear into people for no reason. Now, don't even have because I forgot. You know what? This fits. I saw that Ergin Ataman, he avoided the post-game and halftime interview once again, but he had a press because of course Ergin Ataman had a press. Mind you, Ergin Ataman that said that he didn't care if he lost, but he went absolutely nuclear afterwards. He spoke about fake Greeks again. And he spoke about Thomas Walkup and Tyler Dorsey. And I want to focus on Dorsey before I go in on why he's being a massive hypocrite. Tyler Dorsey has been playing for Greece ever since he was 16. Tyler Dorsey has a Greek mother, not a grandmother, not an ancestor. Tyler Dorsey has a Greek mother, and he's the definition of half Greek. Calling Tyler fake Greek is just salty, uneducated, toxic BS. And it's annoying. Because mind you, Ergin Ataman, of course, is the coach of his nation. He's coaching Turkey. Mind you, half of Turkey's team is half Turkish. For example, Cedi Osman is not full Turkish. It's escaping me, but he's half Balkan. I think he's half Serbian. He may be half Bosnian. I don't remember. But he's not full Turkish. He wasn't born in Turkey. And there are two players that I want to mention because he's talking so much about fake Greeks. And the two names I want to mention, of course, are Shane Larkin and Malachi Flynn. And for those of you that did not know, Malachi Flynn is now eligible to play for Turkey. And then you're going on to talk about fake Greeks. Educate yourselves, people, please. And don't fall for the toxicity because it's not worth it. It never was. And it truly never will be. That's that for me. Enough toxicity. I'm glad to be back. I'm very happy to be back. I'm happy to get into a rhythm again. I'm happy to be healthy, full again. And hopefully, a lot of stuff's coming. I don't know if I'll do a separate show for the national team in and of itself. I'll think about it. But other than that, you'll see me on normal scheduling and hopefully, fingers crossed, some big announcements are coming. As always, thank you all for the support. We're growing in unimaginable rates, and I couldn't be more grateful. So until the next one, thank you.